Welcome to another live episode, Pound for Pound Box Report, episode 301. I am your host, Michael. Joining me this week, the ladies. This could be another quasi semi ladies love boxing
Blank
episode.
tonight.
Joining me is Gayle from Communities Digital News, regular watcher and follower of the show, Lisa. What's going on, ladies?
Hey, just getting it live and underway. Who doesn't need a distraction tonight? Well, here we are, ready to entertain and talk boxing.
Man, look, given the distractions of the past 24 to 48 hours in particular, we all need the distraction because that mess was going on in DC right now. Oy vey.
That's all we're going to say about
Our
boxing.
regular For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, I'm sorry my connection is going a little bit in and out. My apologies for that. But no, for those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show and blog, YouTube show, podcast, as well as blog discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we'll talk about it. When it's bad, we'll talk about it. The bottom line is if it concerns the sweet science, we will talk about it. If you want to find out all information regarding the show for the time being, the place to go to is the blog page, p4pboxreport.wordpress.com. That is the link. If you're checking us out live here on YouTube, just hit the description, links and stuff below, and you'll find the information as well, where to follow us on social media, where you can donate. And I want to say publicly here, I want to thank you so much, Lisa, for your donation. You understand that donation is the best nation, and thank you for the contribution over the weekend. I've got a PayPal and Cash Me donation link. You also check the links to where to find us on over where all over podcast formats, which RSS feeds distribute. Your Spotify's, your iTunes, your Google Podcasts, Spreakers, and Mixcloud, and all that other, et cetera, et cetera. And last but certainly not least, links to where to follow my fitness coaching page. And my apologies, Lisa. I'm gonna get that link. I'm gonna get that fitness coaching link to you. I'm gonna make sure to do it after this show. I am an online coach with beachbody.com. If you want to check out any of the programs like 6 weeks of the work, classic like P90X, Ship Shop, the new boxing based program on Beachbody on demand, 10 rounds is really, really good. It just popped off. It just started publicly, opened up publicly over the last couple of months. I do fitness challenges there. My next challenge will be based on 10 rounds. I hope to get it done to start things off at the beginning of November. So if you want to check that out, please hit up Pound for Pound Box Report blog page, or hit me up on Pound for Pound Box Report Twitter page. That's at P4P Box Report, and or my personal Twitter page at Brother JR76. Let's get things going. I titled the show a fight and a KO that we will never forget, and that's based on, no doubt in my mind, is the leading candidate for fight and knockout of the year. Took place over the weekend at the Bubble at the MGM Grand, as Ivan Baranchyk and Jose Zepeda. My goodness, my goodness. I'm still in awe at the fight. I'm still in awe at the way the fight ended. Zepeda won by fifth round KO, and I'll go to you first, Gayle. Uh, if you just looked at the ending, if you just looked at the result, fifth round KO, okay, that's one thing. But if you actually saw the fight, my gosh, my God, because 8 knockdowns total, each fighter going down 4 times. Uh, and the finish, straight left hand from Zepeda that put Baranchyk down cold. That was, it was both scintillating and scary at the same time. Luckily, from reports I read earlier today, Baranchyk, he received treatment in the hospital, but he's out of the hospital now, and it seems that he's okay. I'm gonna give you, and then you can follow up, Lisa, to talk about that. Um, what a fight!
I can only borrow one of my favorite adjectives from great color commentator who would know, Roy Jones. That was a hellacious fight. Incredible. We've seen a lot of fights in the bubble that were meh, let's be honest. Our expectations were low, and sometimes some of those fights barely met those low expectations. And we have to understand the environment they're working in. At some level, you just have to be happy that live boxing is underway in the United States at all. But this matchup in the main event, we knew it was going to be an offense minded fight with both these guys. Although Jose Zepeda says, well, I can box too. Well, he didn't really need to on Saturday. It was truly the cliche rock'em sock'em robots fight. 8 knockdowns in the fight, well, 7 plus the one that stuck, and one more that got missed. So all packed into 5 crazy rounds. The first round was a 10-7 round. There was not much defense in this fight. There was some, but the punching power on display and the recuperative powers of both fighters, who both took just some massive blows. There were no minor knockdowns in this fight. Every one of the knockdowns would have sent a lot of other men to the canvas permanently. But Baranchyk kept getting up. Zepeda kept getting up. It's been compared to everything from Corrales Castillo to Vasquez Marquez to Gotti Ward. I do think calling it, the best fight of the last 10 years, fight of the century, there's a lot of superlatives I think are maybe pushing it a little, but I think we're just so happy in this day and age and time we're stuck in to see a fight like this, to remind us what boxing can be like, what fighting with heart and guts looks like. We had been waiting for that. We missed that for months. So here it was. Jose Zepeda and Ivan Baranchyk give it to us. And yes, Baranchyk went home after an overnight in the hospital. His promoter, Lou DiBella, tweeted him driving out with his manager. And apparently all Baranchyk wanted was some ice cream. So I hope they gave it to him in his choice of flavors. As for Zepeda, who was the guy that lasted, he now really wants his rematch with Jose Ramirez, which is a loss that was a very close decision that a lot of people thought he acquitted himself really well in that fight, despite being on the losing end. He wants another shot at it. But the truth is, he has some choices on weight divisions. He has some options. And my God, who wouldn't want to see either of these guys again? Although I don't think Baranchyk should get in the ring anytime soon. But when he does, and if he's recovered enough to do so, we'll be glad to see both of those men again. Just a terrific action fight. If you missed it, no matter what we say tonight, we really can't do it justice. Go to YouTube. There's highlights, official highlights on the Top Rank channel. There's plenty of posts of the whole fight start to finish. Please do yourself a favor. As soon as the show's over, or frankly, even in the middle of the show, go watch that fight. You'll thank us.
Indeed. First and foremost, I want to thank Unrivaled Boxing for joining us on the show. He says, hello to you, ladies. I'll go to you, Lisa. I'm not even going to set this up. What you saw, what you witnessed, just go.
Hey, Unrivaled. What I witnessed was like it was like a modern day Hagler Hearns. It was really wow, man. I haven't seen a fight like that in so long. Um, and I just immediately, I just had to say a prayer for those two guys because I was like, wow. And the way he knocked him out and the way he fell, the way he fell on his leg, I thought maybe he had broken his leg or something because he had his leg up, and I was so concerned for him. I mean, still as a I'm a boxing fan, but at the end of the day, we're spectators. But I still want, these warriors to go home to their families safely. And I was so concerned about him. I was like, I hope he be okay. But then I saw a tweet. Somebody had it on a video of him in the car, I think with his co-manager or something, and he was smiling. And I was like, what the heck? I said he made a steal. But it was a really great fight. I haven't seen a fight like that in so long. And my hat's off to both of them. I did not expect that. That their styles are so different, but they just came together so well. And Zepeda, he got my respect. Both of those guys did. But hopefully, maybe they need a little light touch the next fight. I don't know, man. After too many of those fights, man, they take a toll on you. So I'm glad that his brain is all right, and that he passed the brain scan and everything. That he's okay, and it was a great fight.
Where, ladies, would you, uh, in all your years of watching the sport, where would you rank that? Um, oof, that's like a smaller version of Foreman Lyle. The knockout reminded me decades ago of the way for old school, for guys who really followed the sport back in the day, or for older heads like myself. That reminded me of the way Julian Jackson took out Harold Graham with one shot and knocked him cold because the way that both of them fell with their legs bent backwards, looked like they broke their legs and they was out before they hit the canvas. Ooh. Any
Oh,
questions that this is both the fight of the year and the knockout of the year in your opinions, ladies?
Oh
you know,
yes,
go ahead.
yes. So far,
I would definitely call it fight of the year so far. However, I wouldn't call it knockout of the year. I've still got to give that to Alexander Povetkin. It's close. It's certainly a candidate, but you know, I mean, it was just sort of sheer luck that the last knockdown happened to be a knockout. There were plenty of equally good shots in the fight before that, frankly. Now, I really do liken this to the ups and downs and the drama and the change in narrative during the fight with one guy in front and then, oh my God, the next guy came roaring back. That was a Corrales Castillo type of dramatic narrative to me, really, really was, because at different points of the fight, as you watched, you were convinced one guy was on the way to a victory, and whoa, wait a minute. No, 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 no. Now Zebeda's roaring back because, when you're on the losing end of a 10-7 first round, you think, buddy, you're going down in flames. It's pretty much done. Okay, I can get to some other things tonight. Well, it didn't happen that way. The fortunes turned, and then they turned again, and we thought Zepeda was going to move in, and he got knocked down, and that's the stuff that the dramatic narrative. Truly, if you were writing this for a movie plot, everyone would say, no, no, no. This isn't the way boxing works. That's not how it happens. So, yeah, I'd call it a Corrales Castillo fight. Right now, it is my fight of the year. But we have a loaded schedule. If something can beat that, I would like to see two combatants try. I think it'll be very tough. So where do both of them go from here? Well, first of all, I would want to be incredibly sure that Baranchyk is okay, that he can fight again. And Timothy Bradley fought on after he recovered from the Provodnikov fight, but it took him quite some time to get back to the point where he could. So I hope Baranchyk's team is really, really watching out for him. I think the optimal fight for Zepeda is a rematch with Ramirez, or if Ramirez loses to Josh Taylor, let's see that too. Let's give, Zepeda earned his right to go after those straps. So however that happens, he deserves it. And I hope Bob Arum paid that man a bonus.
Yeah, I see your message in the chat on Unrivaled. What I'll do is I'll shoot you a quick link to join us, and then get it, join in, because I'm a take the link back out, because like last week, I don't want any trolls or anybody trying to jump in on the stream. So give me a quick second, and I'll shoot you the invite link, and you can join us. So give us a quick second. Let's move on. Go ahead.
Can I say this right quick? Gayle, I have to chime in on what you said right quick. Yes, you are correct. And the reason why I say that is because the way the precision, and as they would say, textbook knockout, the way what's his name? Not Povetkin. Yeah, Povetkin, the way he knocked Dylan White out, that was textbook, definitely. So I agree.
Nice.
Let's move on to talk about some other fights here. And I forgot to help me on this one, Gayle, specifically you. The kid who fought on the undercard of the Zepeda fight, help me recap his name, from Stockton.
Flores.
Yeah, Gabriel Flores. He fought Well, before we get there, let me get Unrivaled on the show. Unrivaled Boxing, Talking News. He's also a regular follower, regular listener of the show. We were talking about the Baranchyk fight against Zepeda and that sensational, wild affair, as well as the ending. You're joining us live from the UK. Your assessment, your thoughts on what you saw. Where would you rank it in terms of entertainment? Not just this year, but over the years. Speak on it, please.
Yeah, for me, first of all, thanks, Mike, for having me on, and I hope Lisa and Gayle are both doing well. The fight is one of those fights that only comes along every so often, like once in a generation. It reminds you why you watch the sport. We had 8 official knockdowns, including the knockout. It was topsy-turvy. Anything was happening. After the first round, I was thinking, okay, Baranchyk's got him. Then Zepeda dropped him. Baranchyk dropped him again. I was in awe. Like, I've compared it to this. I call it this era's Archie Moore versus Yvonne Darrell. Even though that went 11 rounds, it also had 8 knockouts. Like, if you go back into the very olden days, like you have like Dempsey versus Burpo, where we had 11 knockdowns inside 2 rounds, but there was a different set of rules inside the corner. But you look at a fight where it just goes back for Castillo Corrales, Gatti Ward, Vasquez versus Rafael Marquez. These fights don't come along very often. When they do, you're sat there and all. There's no question it's the fight of the year, because it automatically goes into a conversation as one of the best fights we've seen this century. It really does. It's up there. And the knockout was amazing. The power, and I'm just glad Baranchyk's okay. Well, so far from what we've seen. I was just in awe with what I saw. 1 second I was laughing, the next second I was shocked, next second I was like, I just stood up in my own living room, and I just applauded them from where I was sitting watching on the TV, because I couldn't believe what was going on. It reminds me why I love the sport and why I'll never give up on it.
Sorry, I was on mute there, and my apologies. I'm having some connection issues on my end. So if I may go in and out, Gayle, just start to take over. Y'all just keep talking until I get back. Kind of piggyback on what Gayle was talking about in terms of where both fighters should go, Unrivaled. From your perspective, Zepeda, he wants a rematch with Ramirez. They fought last year, I believe it was. Yeah, last summer. And last summer of 2019, let me correct myself. Summer of 2019. And I thought Zepeda edged it out. Um, he has options at 140 or 135. So, do you think he should try to seek a rematch with Ramirez? Ramirez, of course, has an upcoming fight against Josh Taylor, presumably to happen 2021. Do you think he should go down to 25, 35 and seek opportunities there?
I think he should remain at 140 because he's a legit contender, and I don't see the need for him to move down to 135 and drain himself. At 140, what I would like to see, just maybe it's just me. Bob mentioned he would like to have Catterall fight against Zepeda, and I know that'll shock people that I want to see that fight. I don't believe Jack Catterall should be in the equation to block an undisputed fight. So it would make better sense to me for Bob Arum to get Zepeda versus Catterall. Get that fight, whether it's for the vacant WBO or just to get the Catterall mandatory gone, and then Zepeda gets a shot at the winner regardless because he'd have the WBO mandatory and the WBC mandatory. As for Baranchyk, I'd like to see him take a bit of time out of the ring and spend some time away from the sport, maybe about 6 to 9 months, because I don't know if he's going to be the same fighter again. He was coming off of a near-year layoff, plus he had an injury, a rib injury, and now he's suffered a hellacious knockout, and he was on the ground for a long time without any medical help. But as for Zepeda, he should look for a fight with the winner of Taylor versus Ramirez, or if one of them then moves up to 147, he has an automatic shot at a title one way or another. So he's in a good position. No need to move down.
One more question before we move on, and this is for everybody. Unrivaled, you just mentioned how Baranchyk was on the floor for a good while. I counted a good 5 minutes at least. He was on the floor, out. Before he started to come to. I saw some folks uneased about the way he was handled after the fight, specifically the fact that he was allowed to get up and walk out of the ring, wobbly as he was, instead of being carried out on a stretcher. For everybody here, do you have a problem with the way that the medical folks at ringside handled Baranchyk, even though he's seemingly okay now? But still, the night of the fight, I've read comments where people didn't like the way the medics at the MGM Grand Bubble, excuse me, handled and took care of Baranchyk immediately after the fight.
I have no problem with it. There are probably no better trained medical personnel in a city to handle boxing than there is in Las Vegas. They've done it for decades. University Medical Center, which is Las Vegas's major hospital, teaching hospital and trauma center, is right on top of the strip. It's right between the strip and UNLV and the Thomas Mack Arena. It's right there. Their folks know what they're doing. A couple of things. First of all, I'm not sure he was completely out for 5 minutes. The first close-ups that we got watching from home, he was conscious. His eyes were fluttering. My guess, educated guess, but still it's just a guess, is that they wanted to assure that he did not have a broken neck, a broken jaw when they don't take out the mouthpiece right away. Sometimes you do more damage yanking that mouthpiece right out, especially also if they think there's a bleed behind the nose or orbital bones. You always learn that if you are bleeding from the nose, you do not want to blow your nose. You could do a lot more damage. So you're really, really careful around the head, around anything that could be damaged. You're very careful moving somebody right away until you get that assessment. If he was breathing all right and didn't need oxygen, they're going to let him lay there quietly, safely, until they determine there's no other danger from these, various things that could have happened to him. And believe me, guy goes down like that, you've got to first of all assume just about every potential type of injury is possible. So you don't want to move him and make things worse, paralysis, bleed, whatever. Now, the fact that he got up and walked out, the truth is he's going to get to an ambulance and a hospital a hell of a lot faster if he just gets up and walks out of the ring, if that's possible, as long as it's safe. To get a stretcher in there, they've got to come in. It's not the normal big arena. Let's all not lose sight of that either. This bubble is essentially a ballroom in the convention center building behind the MGM Grand. Yes, it's a big room. They've used it before for fights before the pandemic, but the last fight held there was 2017, and I think it was only used once or twice before that. It's not easy to get to. It's not on the street level. It's above the street. It was just a lot more efficient for him to just walk out of there, walk down the stairs in the back, or however they got him out of the building, and have that ambulance parked right in the back on the street and get him out quick. So, it seems to have been handled well. It was really easy to pick on him in hindsight. I can tell you this, I would not want to be in the position of having had to assess him. Thankfully, a lot of very seasoned, senior, experienced people who've been through this were there. And, at some point, you just got to trust that they do absolutely the best they can for the fighter.
Lisa, Unrivaled, what say you in terms of how Baranchyk was handled by the medics at ringside?
At first, I was concerned about it when I saw it, but I'm not a medic or a doctor. I'm not in that field, so I wouldn't, know. I was thinking, well, maybe it's best that he get up and walk or whatever, if he can walk, because I really thought he broke his leg. I'm not gonna lie. Then he had his leg up in the air, and then the way he fell back, But like I said before, I'm glad that he's okay. I mean, but still, I would if I was his handlers and his team, I would keep him out for a while, just to make sure that he's okay, and just not get into anything really heavy right now, and maybe implement some more, some defense in there, because that's when I thought of him, I kept thinking of Karatnikov. He kept coming to my mind, and but I don't know. I've seen it before in the past where they've had fighters who look like they should have went out on stretchers, but they was walking. So I don't know. That's my take.
Unrivaled?
I'm perfectly fine with how they handled it. Based off of what I was always taught, when someone collapses and you're looking at them, you wait to see how they're breathing. What Gayle was talking about the nose and blood, if anything spews out, that's when you're supposed to act. If there isn't that type of thing, you let their body kind of like rest for a moment. If he's breathing fine, there's no instantaneous need, unless you see something clotting, you don't rush, because it could be a broken bone, it could be a rupture in the neck, anything like that. You need to take your time and wait to see if the person moves. Until that point, you're not supposed to act fully. You're supposed to assess them and take down. That's what they seem to be doing. That's just my point on it.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to some other fights. I may split. What I'm going to do is I'm going to split these fights up here. I'm going to go to you first, Lisa. I mentioned before we went to the lengthy discussion about further talk about Baranchyk and Zepeda. Gabriel Flores, if you saw this fight, he fought on the undercard of Baranchyk and Zepeda. Fought a guy by the name of Kelzuski. Flores, a 20-year-old from Stockton, California. He's fought on ESPN Top Rank before. He won by decision. Looked fairly good in doing so. The question is for you. The question for you is this: in the lead up, Flores talked about fighting for a world title at 130 pounds in a year. While he looked good in this fight and he has talent for sure, uh, based on what you saw of him in this fight and maybe what you've seen of him in past fights, do you think they're rushing a little bit, talking about a world title fight in 2021? Uh, what's your progress report on Flores so far from what you've seen of him?
Um, I mean, I saw some highlights of him in some other fights. Um, he's a he's pretty good. I mean, he's still developing, so I mean, his fight Saturday maybe a 7. As far as the 130-pound division, I don't know. I would say maybe 2 years, but I could be wrong. There's some who's at 130. You got Burchelt, and who else is at 130? Shakur, right?
You got Burchelt there. You got who's going to fight Valdez later on this year. You got Santa Cruz. Um, well, I think he's moving up to 135. You got Jojo Diaz,
Hmm.
who defeated Tevin Farmer. I believe it was earlier this year, at the beginning of the year before the pandemic put a halt to the sport. You also got Jamel Herring. You got
Yeah,
Shakur Stevenson as well. Frampton. Uh, that lot. So,
I don't think he's quite there yet with some of them. I would say maybe 2 years.
mhm. I'll move on to you, Gail, and we're going to go to the UK with these next couple of fights. Um, Chantel Cameron has been talking about fighting Katie Taylor almost throughout her entire professional careers. They got history. Cameron and Taylor going back to their amateur days. I think they fought either 2 or 3 times. Taylor beating her, excuse me, each time. Well, she's kind of moved on from that. She's moved up to 140 pounds, and she got an opportunity to fight for the vacant belt at junior welterweight WBC version. Fought a Brazilian fighter by the name of Araujo. And as much as the fight itself, Gail, the big story was the weigh-in, in which Araujo, she just didn't miss weight. She grossly missed weight, weighing in nearly 6 pounds over. And I didn't see this fight, so I'm gonna rely on you. And you was telling me before the show that she looked humongous in there. Uh, they fought anyway. Um, Cameron won from yours for what you was telling me and won rather easy. She's now the new champion. Give a breakdown for us in terms of the fight itself, as well as what do you think of Chantel Cameron moving forward in 135, 140-pound divisions?
So Cameron weighed in at 137 and a half, a little bit light for the super lightweight division. Adriano Dos Santos Araja weighed in at 145 and three-quarter pounds. And believe me, it wasn't a 145 and almost another pound that looked like she had hit the steam room, starved herself, ran around the block in the morning. It looked like she'd had a big pancake breakfast and came on down for the weigh-in. She did not look like she was even fit for the fight, as in an athletic fit. I can only imagine how much she weighed the day of the fight yesterday. She had to have put on another handful of pounds. Did she put on another 5? Did she put on another 10? She looked 2, 3 divisions bigger. She looked Chavez Jr. bigger. Let me put it that way. And
Wow.
everybody who knows me knows what that's code a dog whistle for.
Yeah,
So
your boyfriend, Gail, your boyfriend.
we broke up. Man, he's trying after that last fight. So, nevertheless, they went ahead with the fight. Araujo was no longer eligible to win the belt. Cameron chose to go forward, and good for her because she was not going to squander an opportunity to win a title. And if you want to say the fight was lopsided, how does 3 cards of 100 to 90 sound? It wasn't even a question. Araujo was so slow, whether it was because of the weight, whether her age is a factor and she got old overnight because she is 38 years old. Chantal was fast, mobile. Her footwork was tremendous. Her accuracy was pinpoint. She was absolutely tagging. Araujo would move in. She fought off the front foot. She fought off the back foot. She'd come in. She'd land combinations. It was almost as if she was practicing different variations of her punches, and then she'd move out. She wasn't making the I'm going to move on one linear line mistake. No, she'd come in, move out, diagonal to the side, using all of the ring. It was almost as if Araujo was moving in slow motion in the middle, and Cameron was on a sped up film moving around her. She was literally that good. I couldn't have been more impressed with her crispness and the skill in her performance. As we mentioned on the podcast last week, for a female fighter, Cameron's 50% knockout rate, actually was higher than that before the fight, is very impressive. Women fighters just generally do not score heavy numbers of knockouts by percentage as the men do. Part of it is a muscle to weight ratio issue. The other is 2-minute rounds make it really, really tough to do. But Cameron is a knockout puncher. Problem with Araujo is she was just so big. At points, it looked like Cameron was hitting concrete or hitting the the biggest size aqua bag, and it just didn't move. So that had to be a bit frustrating for her, but a super impressive performance. If she wants to go after Katie Taylor, I say good for you. The British women's boxing scene right now is so impressive, to the point that we had a fight announced today upcoming in the UK, and I'm going to double check that date because I want to make sure you've all got it. But it is a card put on by Matchroom that is a triple header.
No, November 14th.
Thank you very much.
She's headlining a triple header.
Yep, Katie Taylor is
Terry Harper. Yeah,
Terry Harper is the co-main,
right.
And a rising star, Rachel Ball, is in the third fight. What a great card, and bravo to Matchroom for doing this. Love him or hate him, people don't feel lukewarm about Eddie Hearn. You either love him or hate him, but hat tip to him for embracing what women's boxing is bringing to the table in Great Britain. The fans are really warming up to it. The talent is there. And he has thrown his promotional weight behind it. Very smart thing for him to do. And a hat tip to the British fans for embracing the ladies of boxing. And are you there, Michael? I think we're having those technical difficulties.
Yeah.
I think we are. Lisa, do you want to weigh in on this fight? And then Unrivaled, love to have you take on that main event, which was the Buatsi fight.
Yeah. Yeah, Cameron, I like her. I really like Cameron. She's good. She's good. I was watching her. Then I even watched some of her other fights. She was really sharp, crisp, and like you stated, she does have a good knockout ratio. She's coming along. Did she move up in weight? Because I've seen her in the past, and she looked a little smaller.
Yes, she has fought as recently as 2018 at 135, and that's where she spent the first half of her career at 135. So she has moved up. I don't know what her height is. I mean, next to Araujo, she just looked like she was half her size. It literally was that dramatic a weight difference. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I like her. I like her. I'm happy that she won a title. As far as Katie Taylor, I don't see her being there yet. Katie's just the it girl right now, you know. But
That's
she's
that's a
very
great way to
talented.
put it. Yes.
Yeah, I mean Katie's talented. You can't. I really really like Katie Taylor. Um, but Cameron, she's up and coming and she's doing big things. I'm happy for the young lady and women's boxing.
No
Indeed,
question.
I
indeed.
enjoyed that fight. And as far as the other lady, Adriana didn't look. She was very lethargic, slow. She definitely overweight, and I've seen some film on her, and she's a very defensive fighter. I didn't even looking at her yesterday. I was like, what am I watching? She just didn't even look like the same fighter.
Probably because she weighed so much. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you, folks. Let's move on to this final fight. I want everybody in this discussion, but I wanted to start off with you, Unrivaled. I've talked about Joshua Buatsi a lot on the show. Um, I've stated that I believe he's going to be a world champion, and he has a world title in his future. Um, First fight of 2020, fought a guy by the name of Khalid, tall 6'3" guy, and I have to say, Boasi has had it easy throughout his career. Well, for the first time in this fight, he was given some problems. Uh, he got hit with this kind of a disturbing number of right hands, in my opinion. Suffered some swelling over his left eye. He just had trouble getting to Colic consistently. He eventually closed things in round 7. He got through with power in the right hand, but he had problems throughout. Uh, in your opinion, is this a disturbing thing or is this a good thing for him? Because old school adage is you should always go through a tough fight. If you are a guy who has real potential, the old adage is you should go through someone tough to kind of harden you before getting into a world title shot. Your reaction to what you saw in this fight and what you saw from Bawasi specifically.
Well, firstly, I was actually really pleased with the fight. Really pleased with it because it was a good fight. It was good. Um, I told a lot of people about Marco Kalic because I've been watching him since he was in the World Series of Boxing and in the amateurs. Live, I watched him fight Tervel Pulev. I saw him fight Martin Ward. Um, Joe Ward, sorry, Joe Ward. Um, he's always been a good fighter. I actually thought he beat Pulev, and I thought he's always been a pretty good amateur, solid, very good at moving around. He's got that right hand, and he used to cause people a lot of problems. And it's weird that Boxrec have his height listed at 6'3" because in the amateurs and in the World Series of Boxing, they had him down at 6'4". So unless he shrunk by an inch, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure he's actually 6'4" from what I've seen. And seeing him next to Callum Smith when they were practically the same size kind of gave me that idea when they sparred about 2 years ago. They looked the exact same height. From Buatsi, I had an idea it was going to be difficult because something that he doesn't really do is fight off of the line, and Kalic will turn off the line constantly, and he'll make you change your stance. And I wanted to see if he would have the heart and determination to kind of break through that because I knew he was going to get pieced up in the first 2 rounds. Honestly, I did because he's been off. So has Kalic, but Kalic hasn't been sick, hasn't had an injury. He hasn't had those issues to deal with and the lack of training camp because Kalic has been in training for the last 5 months. Watching him on Instagram, he's been constantly training, constantly in the gym. So he's managed to remain in shape. And he had more film study to go off of with Buatsi than Buatsi had on him. And you could see that from the opening bell, the way he dug his elbows in. But what Buatsi did manage to do was he managed to remain tough, keep walking them down, and he changed something up. Instead of headhunting like he was a little bit, he started to slowly whittle him down with the right hook and left hooks to the body. Whenever he had the chance to get on him, he would stop swinging for the head and he'd start going low and then coming high. And that was something that he made as an adaptive change. I personally believe when people go around and they criticize fighters because they have it easy, they should take harder fights. Like Anthony Yarde should have had harder fights to get him ready for when he got to world level against Sergey Kovalev. I believe they shouldn't be criticizing a fighter like Joshua Buatsi, who's had a tough fight against a game opponent. Just because you don't know who he is doesn't mean he's not a good fighter. He has World Series boxing pedigree. He's been to the quarterfinals at the Europeans twice. He's been to the AIBA World Championship second round, and he qualified for the Olympics and had to pull out due to an ankle tear, like a tear just around his ankle. So he was a notable amateur, and somebody who wasn't too dissimilar to Buatsi's amateur pedigree himself. So I was very pleased. I'd like to see how he deal with a little bit of a southpaw next, but all in all, he did well, considering his opponent was not easy.
So what you're saying is that even though he wasn't well known, maybe outside of certain pockets in England, that doesn't mean there was not any real substance there with him. If you take a look at the pedigree, and because of that, maybe he was underestimated in terms of what his true worth as a fighter.
Sorry, Michael. What was that? My phone cut out. My line cut out.
Okay, what you was, I guess, in other words, you're saying is that when it comes to Khalid, just because he wasn't known in outside of certain pockets in England, right? That doesn't mean he's not a guy without substance. Given his, if you take a look in terms of his actual pedigree, he coming in, he may have been underestimated by the public in mass.
Yes, definitely, because he does have that experience, and on top of the experience he has amateur, he's actually been one of the chief sparring partners for Fedor Chudanov. He's been a chief sparring partner for Tyrone Zwega, and also on top of that, he sparred a lot with George Groves when George Groves was getting ready for the Eubank fight.
Indeed. Let's take this conversation, bring Lisa and Gayle into the conversation. Given what you just heard from Unrivaled, and how he talked about overall in the end, this was a good thing for Buatsi. Use that in terms of your breakdown of the fight and your assessment of Buatsi in the aftermath of this win.
These are exactly the kind of skill building fights younger, developing future champions like Buatsi need. They need to be challenged and they need to be tested on certain skills by determined challengers like Marco Calic, who turned out to be, worthy of his undefeated record. He was not a pushover. He turned out not to be as skilled as Buatsi, and it was a smart thing for his corner to throw in the towel in the 7th round eventually as Buatsi started figuring him out. But Calic gave Buatsi something to figure out and made it tough on him to figure him out, because in the meantime, he was landing shots and creating some of his own mayhem in the ring. So what I liked most about this fight was after it was over, Buatsi said, "I've got a lot to work on." That's exactly what you want to hear from a guy like this. Hungry to get better, honest about what happened. Sure, he won, and he won by stoppage, but he learned something. He learned where deficiencies were. You don't want to learn that down the road against somebody like a better Biev or a Dmitry Bivol, who's going to just take him apart in completely different ways. This way, he knows what to work on. He knows where someone can get to him, and he can learn how to correct that now. Nothing but good for Buatsi from a fight like this. It does not serve these guys to continually fight pushovers and then suddenly get thrown in with somebody at the top of the division. That does not serve anybody, and it doesn't really serve the fans at all, because you watch them just knocking over tomato cans one after another, and eventually even that gets pretty old. And then you see them go up against real competition and just get flattened.
Your thoughts, Lisa?
Sorry, I was on mute. I like the way Boasi has been handled. They're not throwing him in there to the wolves. They're bringing him up the right way. Um, yeah, he has some, some difficulties in the fight, but it's to be expected. This is what makes a great um future champion, I would say. He's being moved not too fast, but not too slow. He has some great pedigree, like Mark stated earlier, and he's I've been hearing about this young man for a while now, for the last couple of years. So I knew that he was an up and rising great talent, future talent. So I've been keeping my eye out on him. At first, I didn't really pay attention to him, but I've been hearing about him so much. So I'm looking forward to him. Future fights with him, and at least he had the humility to acknowledge that his shortcomings and see that he needs to work on some things, and that's a good thing. Even though he won
One
the fight, he still acknowledged that there's things that he needs to still work on.
Okay, cool. Before we move on, you Unrivaled, you over in the UK right now. I'm hearing here stateside in the United States that Eddie Hearn is trying to set up a match next between Buatsi and Callum Johnson. Johnson, of course, who fought Beterbiev a couple of years ago, I think it was. Scored a knockdown before he eventually got stopped in the fourth. What are you hearing from your over there on the other side of the pond?
That's actually being reported heavily. I'm in personal contact with Callum Johnson as well. It's been discussed with him, and that's a positive sign. But it will only happen after the Igor McCalkin fight for Callum Johnson. What they're hoping for is Callum Johnson wins the title against Igor McCalkin, and then they can have Buatsi versus Johnson headline with the EBU title on the line, which is that's a pretty solid title. It gets you ranking points and all that, but it comes with names attached to it. But it seems to be something that they're positively looking at. So that's the good news.
Okay, for those who may not know, the EBU Union, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, the EBU European. It's the EBU. Yeah, European Boxing Union, light heavyweight championship. It's the European title, the official one.
Okay.
It's not like the WBO European title or the WBA.
Indeed.
It's the official European title championship.
Indeed. Let's move on to some news here. Deontay Wilder, who's coming off of his loss to Tyson Fury this past February, got stopped in the 7th. He's supposed to fight Fury in a trilogy. Don't know what's going to happen in December, or I'm thinking more 2021. I wrote about this with threekingsboxing.com. Well, in the aftermath of that second fight with Fury, we all knew Wilder was flawed from a technical standpoint, and Fury really exposed it in that second fight. She stopped him in the 7th round. Knew after our show last week that Wilder has decided to part ways with his trainer, Mark Breland. Breland has handled Wilder throughout his career. And Unrivaled. Reaction to the fact that Wilder decided to move on for Breland, who is going to handle the bulk of his training now. And do you think this move should have been made earlier?
I don't think so. I like that there was perhaps a cooling off period. Uh, Wilder didn't part ways with him, say, a few nights afterward or the next day. Uh, I'm hopeful that they had some adult discussions man to man over it. And whether we think it's the right thing to do or not, the bottom line for Wilder is that if he's lost confidence in a trainer, no matter how good that trainer is, and I do think Mark Breland is an exceptionally good trainer, but when the fighter's lost confidence, then the relationship is done. There's nothing more to offer. And if that's how Wilder felt, it's a smart thing for him to move on. And I hope the fact that it's taken until October to make this happen, or at least late September, means that he gave it some serious thought. I don't have any problem with it. Only the fighter and the trainer really know what happened.
I've got an issue with it.
Lisa, Unrivaled, what say you in terms of the news development about Wilder deciding to part ways with Breland? And who do you think long term should handle Wilder outside the ring in terms of training capacity?
I'll go first. First and foremost, I don't like the move, to be honest. Wilder's molded himself on Breland's style. And now he's being left with Malik Scott and Jay Deas. I don't like Jay Deas as a trainer. That's just a personal assessment. What I've seen, what I've listened to, I don't think he's worth salt. That's just for me personally. As for Malik Scott, I don't understand why he'd have Malik. I guess it's just a confidence thing. Maybe he just wants people around him who are going to say yes to him all the time. I don't know. But what it tells me is it doesn't help him in this rematch. Maybe it'll help him in his own mind a little bit. But to me, I just see nothing that'll really work. Like, what are they going to do? Have him fight on the back foot and run around for 12 rounds? That's not his thing. So taking him away from what Breland knows. Breland, we all know what Breland is very good at. He's good at taking your biggest attributes, heightening them, and turning them into potent weapons. Wilder's now considered a viper. He's a viper striker. He'll disguise off of the jab and bam, take you out. Without that, he's going to go back to windmilling. That's what JD's had him doing originally, before Breland. And it's kind of sad that a man who fine-tuned him, helped him, and arguably helped save him from serious damage, considering all the reports his brother keeps talking about. Like, you know, his head was indented. If that had went on a couple more rounds, who knows where he'd be right now. Is being thrown under the bus, as though he's responsible for it and not what happened inside the ring. But then again, I guess he never really had a lot of confidence in Mark Breland anyway. He's taking instruction in the corner from JD's and keeping Mark Breland there, not giving him advice, sipping on water. Reminds me of Chris Eubank Jr.'s situation. So from that point, there's nothing I can really say more. But as for who he should go with, I'd like to see... I would honestly like to see possibly Derek James. Or there could be, it depends what you want to do. He could go up to Pedro Diaz. He's got good sparring partners available, Filip Hrgovic, etc. I mean, these guys would be able to give him good sparring, tall guys, Ivan Daichko, who can give him something to get him ready for Fury. He needs to improve his sparring partners. Last time his sparring partners didn't really cut it. His best sparring partner was Junior Fa. And that doesn't get you ready for Tyson Fury. So that's my take.
It will not happen at this point, but because it just will not happen at this point, not right now. But you know who really should handle him? Sugar Hill. The same guy who's training Fury.
No, I agree with you. The other one that I would get in would be James Ali Bashir. To be honest with you, if you could get him, he was under that Manny Stewart as his number 2 for years.
You know,
What say you
had
about
a conversation with somebody, And Derek James is absolutely the first name that crossed my mind. Although the other possibility, which would be awfully interesting, especially as so many of his fighters are on the other side of the promotional street, is Brian McIntyre.
Oh, wow.
You know, I like the vibe he's got set up in that operation in the Midwest in his gym. There's very much a team spirit that goes on among the fighters. They support each other. He doesn't have a lot of big men, but hey, it's the American Midwest. There's a lot of big boys over there. Come on. I mean,
for those,
bring on
go
some
ahead.
bring on some big converted MMA fighters if you just got to have big guys to hit, you know, for sparring. Or he can easily bring in guys from the West Coast. There's plenty of working journeyman heavyweights that could work with Fury.
And for those who don't know who we're talking about in terms of Brian McIntyre, she's talking about Brian Bull McIntyre, current trainer of one Terrence Bud Crawford. And I believe he trains Jamel Herring as well. Let's bring Lisa into this conversation. Your reaction to the news, and if you had a say so into this long term, who do you think the trainer of Bomb Squad? Who should be the trainer of one Bomb Squad?
I've been hearing a lot of things about what's his name? What's the guy's name? They used to train Buddy McGirt. I was hearing different people's opinions on it, and somebody was talking about how Buddy was good for like Arturo Gatti, and how like when a person wants to transition their style, then he could like come in and help kind of refine some things. But I really liked Mark Breland because he was tall, tall and lanky like Wilder, and also with that 1-2. And I mean, sometimes a person can only take you as far as they can take you. And sometimes you have to go out and seek other, explore other avenues. But Buddy McGirt sounds good. You also Derek James, if he go up in there, he gonna kill somebody. Because Derek really has you sitting down on your punches, man. Woo! If he was to go with Derek James, that would be brutal. But I don't know. James Ali Bashir, that sounds good. I like that. You know why? Because he's old school and he's no nonsense. And he's a good trainer. He's an underrated trainer that doesn't really get his just due. And he comes from the crunk, style of I like James Ali Bashir. So those are my picks.
Yeah, those are all good choices, and it'll be interesting how he prepares for this Fury rematch when it happens. I think it'll happen. I don't think it'll happen this year. I think it will happen first quarter 2021. Who will handle him for this fight against this trilogy against Fury? Who will handle him long term? One thing's for sure. Coming off of that loss this past February. Something has to change because what he did in that second fight, that wasn't it. In my opinion, what he did in that first fight, minus the knockdowns, and he almost got the knockout, but outside of that, that wasn't it either. So there has to be a certain deconstruction and reconstruction, particularly off of that second fight. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. 2020 has been like the country and the world has been the year of COVID-19, aka coronavirus. We've talked. The sport was put on freeze throughout the spring and a lot of the summer because of this pandemic. Fighters have been affected by it. Jamel Herring, who we mentioned a couple of times, he had to have his fights postponed twice because he tested positive for it. There have been other fighters who tested positive for it. And the ramifications of that pandemic, um, it continues, not just in terms of the world itself. And you just, again, what we've seen stateside here over the past 24 to 48 hours, given, I'll just say that person in the White House, because his response to this from the beginning has been, yeah, yeah. Um, Let me stop before I get myself in trouble. Um, it's been something. I'll just say that it's been something, and we've seen the impact of it happen in boxing again, as Eddie Hearn last week, again after the recording of the last live show last week, he announced that he's going into a self-imposed quarantine as because of a positive test. Uh, just your reaction to the developments regarding Eddie Hearn and the continued ramifications of this virus, of this pandemic throughout the year in the sport. Anybody who wants to jump in, please do.
Eddie, Eddie, for Americans who aren't super familiar with him, and I love Unrivaled, I'd love you to weigh in with this. He just strikes me as sort of an overgrown frat boy, right? And he's got his appetites. He likes to have a good time. He's very lucky that he's in a sport where he can have some fun and make some money. And certainly his father gave him a head start. It doesn't surprise me that he isn't particularly disciplined about things. And who the hell knows where he got it? He is out in the world. I wouldn't have put it past him to be enjoying a late night with a drink in front of him, and you have a few drinks into you, even a guy as big as Eddie, and your proper protective habits sort of fall by the wayside. Let's just put it that way. So I wish him well. I hope he recovers. I did see an interview with him over the weekend. He looked pretty good. He's a fairly young, fit man. Statistically speaking, he should recover. And I do hope that's the case.
Unrivaled, Hearn is a lightning rod, whether here in the United States or particularly over in the UK. I know it's a bit unfair to have you speak for an entire region over in Europe, but I'm going to ask you this anyway. From your runarounds and the folks you follow and talk to and converse with, both online and in person, the reaction to the news regarding Eddie Hearn testing positive for COVID?
Oh, we think it's hilarious for the most part. Most of us do. I think the main reason we find it hilarious did y'all see the tweet? Did y'all see the tweet? Wear a mask, wash your hands, keep your distance. How about get more exercise, get healthy, boost your immune system? Just my morning thought. And then he goes and he gets COVID. I think it's hilarious.
That is funny.
It makes me question: did he just say that just to say it, or was he really living that? Because if he got it, that to me it says he wasn't doing what he was telling everybody else to do.
Well, he's overweight anyway, isn't he? So I mean, he regularly says he's 18 stone. I'm the same. I'm actually an inch taller than Eddie. I'm slimmer than him by 20 pounds, and I'm overweight. So he's way overweight.
Well, when you're tall, you can hide it pretty well. Again, we refer to the current president of the United States for an example of that.
Yeah, but hiding
at least Hearn is honest about it. Let me not say that for the guy in the White House who continues to lie about his condition. But carry on.
Yeah, I just think it's hilarious, to be honest. And most people I know do, because he's kind of a beacon of misfortune. He constantly says stuff and then other things end up happening, or maybe that's just his style of doing things. Like, he'll tell you John Ryder and Danny Jacobs is going to happen, but then due to unforeseen circumstances, Gabriel Flores gets to fight with Danny Jacobs. Who knew?
What in the world? Really?
Yes, Gabriel Flores, Danny Jacobs.
Come on, Jacobs. You're better than that. No disrespect to Gabriel Flores, but you're better than that.
But yeah, all in all, I just find it really funny. I hope he comes through okay. He should be. He's all happy and chirpy, and he's cussing out his commentary team for not doing the job that he wants them to do on Twitter. So it's all really fun for me, really.
Lisa?
Yeah, I wish him a speedy recovery, and I think his dad has it too, from what I saw. I wish him a speedy recovery. Because I've had family members who've had it, and it's not a joke, that thing. Basically, well, I don't really follow Eddie Hearns like that because he's constantly here, there, everywhere. I don't really follow these boxers or people. Personally, he talked too much for me. But I mean, I understand. That's just me. So I don't really follow what he says or what he doesn't say, because I could give two rats bonds, because I can't keep up with him. Every time I turn around, he's somewhere. But he does talk a bit much for me. And what I but what I'll say is this: he definitely, I'll give him this much credit. I'll say this: he does work a lot, and I have to tip my hat to that. He's a hardworking man, and he's always out there working, but he probably needs to, when you're working so hard like that and you're constantly traveling here and there and all these different places, you need to your immune system needs to strengthen that, and practice the proper protocols as far as with this COVID thing, and just don't get caught slipping out there. This thing is not a joke.
Yeah.
But
Wear your damn mask.
I,
Take care of yourself.
yeah,
At
but
all
I don't do
times.
that. Like I told y'all last week, I don't really do that Twitter stuff and all of that. And I see Eddie Hearn everywhere. I don't know how I can't keep up with those. I haven't seen maybe 2 or 3 different interviews. It's just too many of them.
Yeah. Can I
Talk
ask
too
you?
much.
Can I ask you guys a
Yeah.
question? Just
Uh-huh.
it's maybe a little bit off, but you know Eddie, right? He's a promoter. He's the promoter for Matchroom and boxing and all this, and he has to stage events and stuff, right? And he keeps crying about that we have no fans, and he wants to get fans back. Do you think he sent out a positive message by pretty much doing an anti-mask message and telling people to just get fit and healthy, and that's how you deal with it, right?
Hell
Was
no.
that? Do you think he
Let me
sent
just
out a
stop you
positive
right there.
message to the
Hell no.
government?
No.
No?
No. Let me answer that for you. No. Just speaking from what we've been dealing with over the past 24 to 48 hours here in the States, no. You don't
Do you,
do that.
do you think it helps his case in terms of getting his events opened to fans when he's going against what they're advocating for with the government?
He can't get certain fighters, particularly US fighters, to travel over there to fight because of this. It's counterintuitive. It's a contradiction. It's ass backwards to say that, Hearn. You don't do it. Period. Full stop.
What are you saying? What are you
Lot
saying? He's trying to have these big events, and
You
that
you you can't be, excuse me, Lisa. You can't be jumping the gun, rushing to have all these big events, and yet walking around doing all of this traveling and all this stuff, essentially exposing yourself and not taking precautions in the meantime. That's not how it's going to work in 2020. That's not how it's going to work from now on. He has
right.
to change, and the sport has to change.
True.
And
Well,
here's the
people think,
difference. I'm not a fan of Frank Warren, but I was interviewing him on Zoom the other day, and he was sat there with a face mask on during the interview with no one else in his office.
Exactly.
There you go.
That's how you have to do it from this point on. You can't mess around with this.
right.
Even if it may seem
over precaution, even if it may seem hyperbolic in a certain context, you have to do that now. You have to do that now. Let me just go there. I've been hitting it. Let me just go there. You got a president of the United States advocating, mocking folks who don't wear a mask, downplaying this pandemic, on the campaign trail saying, quote, unquote, keep the testing down. Look at where he in our country is at now. This fool got the pandemic. Damn near any and everybody associated with him is testing positive. He goes to the hospital full of COVID, leaves the hospital early while he is full of COVID-19, forces the Secret Service to ride him around in a car, possibly infecting them, and then probably browbeating doctors to have him go home early when he's not out of the water. That alone should be an alarm to Hearn, to the entire sport. You cannot mess around with this. Period.
Right.
And if any promoter, any manager, any boxer don't understand that now, given on what's been transpiring in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C., y'all fool.
End of politics. Don't scare off our listeners.
And that's all I got to say about that.
The rest of the show.
Wow.
Yeah, as one of our participants in the live chat, thank you very much, Red Glove Militant. I won't be looking to Eddie Hearn for any medical advice. Well said. End of discussion.
I will. You know, like, I'll ask him how to catch an infection, like, because no. Let me explain why. I've got a young son. He hasn't had chicken pox yet. I'll ask him what's the best way to catch something. He may know.
Send him over to Eddie's house. Yeah, absolutely right.
And I don't go off like that, but you know, this is a serious situation. I've had family members pass away as a result of this virus. And it's no joke. And get mad at me if you want to. MAGA folks, come out. If you got something to say, be careful.
You don't want to go there.
The inactions.
My condolences to you, Michael.
Yeah, and thank you so much. The inactions and the irresponsibility of said guy in the White House. Let's just say 210,000. I'm not saying he's the direct cause of it, but you can't tell me his irresponsibility does not have a direct effect on the fact that 200,000 people have died from this, and 7 million people in the United States alone has been affected with this. So no, this is no joke for me. This is serious as a heart attack. So that's my stance, and that's how I'm sticking to it. And like I said, any MAGA folks or any MAGA supporting boxing folks want to try to holler at me, just be careful. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Let's move on and talk about some happier stuff here. I didn't put this in the chat. The news broke about this today. The homie Bakar, excuse me, wrote about this for 3kingsboxing.com. I'll go to you on this one first, Unrivaled, then Gayle and Lisa, you can chime in on this as well. Joseph Parker, former WBO heavyweight champion, gave a decent account of himself against Anthony Joshua a couple of years back. He's going to return to the ring in December, going to fight Junior Fa. All New Zealand matchup. Your thoughts on this? Parker is the experienced guy. Fa is strong and up and coming, but do you think they're rushing him a little bit too quickly, fighting the likes of Parker? And I also should mention he gave Dillian White a pretty tough go and had him down and hurt in the last round of that fight as well.
Well, I was always taught if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Junior Fa's whittled away his career. And now he's getting beat up. He got beat up against Dominic Gwynn for the first 4 rounds. He got dropped and everything. I don't have any intrigue. I really don't.
Tell us how you really feel.
No, I'm not even going to cover or write about it myself. So no intrigue.
Lisa, Gayle, your thoughts?
You know, I don't hate it, as we say on this show. I do not hate it. Um, Again, the pandemic gets a say right now on the boxing schedule. You know, it's had way more than a say than it deserves. That's for damn sure. But this is a way to have a little internal in-country rivalry fight. It gets these guys in the ring and it gets them in front of a full crowd of fans. 9,000 people will be able to attend this fight. There's a lot about those elements to override the problems, any mismatch issues. You know, I give credit to Junior Fa for, you know, reaching high, extending his grasp. I don't hate it at all. And I think when it comes right down to watching it, we'll see it, we'll enjoy it.
Lisa?
Yeah, I don't know much about Junior Fa. I've heard of him. So I don't really know what to say because I don't really know much about Junior Fa. Of course, I know Joseph Parker. So I need to do more study on Junior Fa, okay? My apologies.
I'll,
No
I'll,
problem.
I'll give you the best info I can on that. He's a body puncher. Um, him and Parker, they went 2-2 together in the amateurs with one another. He's a bit taller than Joe. During his career, he started out pretty well. Then I think he went anemic, right? Water issues, went anemic, and since then he's kind of struggled with his performance and his stamina. He's got an okay jab. He was a seasoned amateur, to give him his credit, and it does have national intrigue in New Zealand. That's the best I can give.
Okay, thanks, Unrivaled. Well, the good thing about New Zealand is, and it's a great thing. I'm glad they have the pandemic pretty much under control, and they're getting some. The fights are getting pretty big crowds. As far as when they had the Tim Zoo and what's his name? Oh, was that that was in Australia, right?
Yeah. To Unrival's point, the intrigue there is very similar to the fight between Tim Zhu and Jeff Horn, which took place, I want to say, in August. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm glad that they doing what they have to do there, and but I'll be looking out for him on Rival.
I'll give you my prediction now. 5 rounds, Parker. If Parker wants to, he'll get him out of there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying. I'll just say that now. Whenever he wants, he'll beat him.
I'll be happy if in the lead up to the fight he gives us some more movie parody videos. I'll be all about that.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God.
And for those who don't know, you'll find Joe, Joe, Joe Parker Boxer on Twitter, on his Instagram feeds. Joseph Parker has been entertaining himself and therefore everybody else who has watched these with music parody videos in which he plays most of the major roles in very famous films mostly with music. He's got a buddy who's a very talented film editor and director who's been doing all the shooting. And Joe has been Forrest Gump. He's been in Back to the Future. He's
Grease,
right? I mean, it's been Love Actually. It's been nothing short of amazing. And he says, hey, I was this guy all along. He's very musical. He plays the piano legitimately very well. He doesn't just plink along. And he decided to just have some fun. The other one, and this is very appropriate for this time of year that he did, be sure you find his version of the Time Warp from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which does feature the aforementioned Eddie Hearn as Dr. Scott and a dancing, gyrating Michael Buffer and Tyson Fury. plays a
Yeah.
cameo role.
Diaring Michael Buffer.
Oh,
I
God.
thought.
Yeah, it was the full pandemic production, all distanced and edited together, and it's damn clever stuff. He's got a
And
future beyond bison.
indeed, and once again, as Gail, as Lisa mentioned, shout out to the country of New Zealand, which again showed you how you should handle this pandemic. If you do it right, this is what happens. You get a full crowd, and again, take note, take note, Hearn, take note, England, take note, U.S., take note, current man in the White House. And again, if I misspoke earlier, I said I should have said 210,000 people have passed away as a result of this pandemic in the U.S. and 7 million has been affected. But again, let's move on. Let's start to uh, preview some fights here. One main fight I want to focus on. I may talk about a card in a couple fights on a card in London or Unrivaled. I'll go to you specific on that if I decide to touch on it. Um, Going to you, Lisa, on this one. Emanuel Navarrete. Um, Pretty productive run as a junior featherweight champion, came on the scene late in 2018 with an upset win over Isaac Dogbe. Punched him in 2 fights. Uh, Clearly established himself at 122 pounds. He's moving up to 126 pounds because of a struggle in weight. Going to fight a guy by the name of Villa this coming weekend on the 9th, I believe, in Las Vegas. Fight is going to be aired on ESPN at the Bubble in Vegas. If you see Navarrete fight, your thoughts on him and your keys in terms of this fight against Villa.
I'm gonna do
I
some.
said Robert. Excuse me, Lisa. I said Robert Villa when I should have said Ruben Villa.
Yeah, I have to do a little more study on Villa, which I'm gonna do tonight. Navarrete by destruction, man. This guy is a machine. He's just coming through and destroying everybody.
Navarrete by destruction. I like that.
Yeah, he's just destroying everybody that's coming through his path. I think he got one loss, right?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Navarrete, yeah, it's 1 loss, 1 defeat.
yeah. This dude is destroying everybody. He's so much bigger than his competition, though. So I would like to see Navarrete fight somebody like close to like his size and dimensions and weight and everything. There should be a war. But he is destroying everything that's coming his way. Steamrolling them.
Gail, Unrivaled. I'll go to you. Your thoughts on this fight between Navarrete and Villa.
Other than Clay Collard, the busiest man in boxing and so far fighter of the year with count 'em, 5 wins this year, Navarrete, this will be his 3rd fight in 2020. For reigning champion up to this point, now he's going to be fighting for a vacant WBO World Featherweight title with Villa for this fight. That's really amazing. But that has always been Navarrete's MO. Busy, keep me busy, keep me busy. 5 fights, 6 fights a year, bring it. I had a fight in late June. I'm getting rusty. Get me back in the ring, Bob. I gotta stay busy. He is a machine. Wouldn't it be nice for a lot of other young fighters like him at age 25 to be as aggressively active as he is? Not a lot of his fights go a long distance. His last fight went 6 rounds. Was ended up being a no contest. Previous fight did go 11 of the 12, but before that, 4 rounds, 3 rounds, 4 rounds. So he's doing the right thing. He's staying busy. He's no Mr. Gary Russell Jr., that's for damn sure. He's a very, very tall featherweight at 5'7", but, at 25 years old, still, everybody laughs about developing that man strength. Well, God, if this isn't his man strength, what's that going to be like? he'll be real fun to watch as he moves up in weight, as he goes up and, starts plowing through 130, 135. I don't think there's any reason he, can't move himself up through 140. I mean, whatever he feels comfortable doing, he's got plenty of time in front of him at age 25 and just a ton of experience. So good for him. Ruben Villa has been one of these guys who's, kind of been a showbox kind of fighter, rolled up that 18-0 record against less than impressive competition. So, hey, let him see what he's made of. Let him learn something from his experience against Navarrete. And it keeps Navarrete busy and in front of the fans.
I'll go to you, Unrivaled. You know, to he has an amateur pedigree. I believe Villa is the guy that Shakur Stevenson beat uh, 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 to earn the Olympic slot. You earn a slot on the U.S. Olympic team in 2016. I believe Villa is the guy he's defeated. So the amateur pedigree is there, and he is 18-0. But 5 KOs, and as Gayle noted, uh, the list of opponents, southpaw, uh, aggressive, uh, but I think he has a style that kind of plays into Navarrete's hands. Um, he's going to be there for Navarrete, and Navarrete, to Lisa's point, he likes to destroy. Um, a vast array of punches, head and body, power. I think he's going to be better at 126 pounds because in his last title defense, I didn't like the way he looked. He won, but I thought physically he was weakened. Your thoughts on this fight coming up?
I'm not mad at it. I like it. Originally, it was meant to be Jesse Magdaleno versus Navarrete, right? If
Yes.
I'm, yeah, I would have liked to see that, but I'm not mad at it. Like you say, he has an amateur pedigree. He did lose to Shakur, but him and Shakur fought 4 times in that year, and they went 2-2. He also fought against Stephen Fulton in I think it was the National Golden Gloves in 2014, and he beat Fulton. He's a southpaw, tricky, good jab. Um, yeah, he's fought a little less than stellar opposition so far, but most people who are prospects tend not to really, at this stage now, tend not to be pushed too quickly unless they've got some elite level background. Um, Navarrete is a machine, though, isn't he? He's so physical, strong, huge, um, volume puncher. And now he's adding in a new ball. He's slipping, he's head feinting, and he's pivoting off of people's guards and hitting them with hooks. So he's adding in new things all the time. He's doubling up his jab more on the move. I mean, I don't know where he's gonna head off. I think 140 might be a bit too much for him. But who knows by the time he's in his 30s. Because he still seems pretty skinny. Like he could fill more muscle onto his frame. I don't see any harm in him getting this fight, winning it, which I think he'll do quite comfortably. And then I'd like to see him go for a unification against the winner of Warrington Jew. I'd like to see that happen because with his volume and their volume, you're only going to get one thing, and that's a great fight. You
What's
know,
the update on? Excuse me for interrupting, but what's the update on Warrington's on Kanzu? I'm hearing that it's almost finalized. Do you have any further updates on?
confirmation of venue, and then it's a go. That's
Okay,
all.
okay,
Confirmation of venue, and then it's a go. So, they're waiting on the confirmation of the venue, and I think Eddie Hearn is really petitioning hard with the WBA to get Zhang elevated because Leo's at 130. So that's all he's looking for. He wants to make it a unification.
okay. One final card here. That's because I think the Lipinets um, fight has been moved back. It was supposed to happen on the 10th. Also on the 10th, there's a card in London. Beefy Williams is fighting in the main event. Uh, any fights or fighters
any fights or fighters that we should keep an eye on?
I'll give you a fighter, a prospect to keep an eye on. His name's Dennis McCann. He's a bantamweight.
Yes, I wrote about him. I recently wrote about him for Three Kings in the Prospect to Watch feature. Yeah,
Yeah,
6 foot,
he's
5'11", 6 foot bantamweight. They calling him kind of a taller version of Hamed.
yeah, he moves like him. He's more defensively sound than him. I've seen this kid sparring with super featherweights and giving them hell. I mean, big time stuff. I know that he was sparring with Kid Galahad, and Galahad couldn't get him. He couldn't touch him. And Galahad's a pretty big featherweight, been in there with Warrington. So if he's a bantamweight and he's 5'11", he's only 19, sky's the limit. He hits really hard and he's fast-handed. And he seems to be advanced beyond his years defensively, slipping, moving, tucking his elbows. I even seen in one case, in one of his fights, someone went to do something and he actually used cross-arm defense, took the jab down, caught him with an overhand right and knocked him out.
Wow.
So you don't see that. He's very well schooled in old school fighting as well. Very vicious in the pocket guy.
Wow.
So
he broke out the turtle shell defense and used it to counter and knock the guy out. Wow.
Man. Now, gentlemen, I can't believe you haven't brought up a card that sadly I do not believe has US TV broadcast rights.
Is it in Canada?
In Canada,
Yes.
David Lemieux returns
stop.
to the ring.
No. We're in different worlds. Arslanbek Makhmedov returns to the ring.
Oh, yes, he is. Yes, he is on the undercard. And a NABF, you don't see that hauled out too much, very much. NABF heavyweight title fight in 10 rounds. But yes, the headliner, the main event, the return of David Lemieux, who's fighting a local product super middleweight fighter originally from the Congo with a 17-3 record with 4 knockouts out of those 17. So we all know what this fight is about. But there you go. No, just noting for the record. For those keeping track.
Yeah, but we know what Lemieux is. He'll win.
You know what? And I
to answer
still
your-
think somewhere down the road, he's going to be standing in front of Canelo Alvarez. I'm just saying.
To answer your question, Red Gloves, yes, I do write for Three Kings. I don't mention it enough, and I should. But yeah, I am one of the writers for ThreeKingsBoxing.com. Absolutely. And I think we're going, but yeah, Lemieux, we know what he is. He's going to win that fight, and they'll put him in a position for another world title shot, and he'll get outboxed again. So that's what it is with Lemieux.
Hey, a man's got to make a living. What can I say?
Be it at 60 or at 68. So it is what it is with this guy.
Is that how you pronounce it, Lemieux? I've been calling him Lemieux for years.
Nah, it's Lemieux.
Lemieux. Yes, sir. Well, there you go. Check it out, folks.
One final thing before we really start to shut the show down here. In a way, he's fighting Maloney on Halloween. And I don't know if you've heard about this Unrivaled. I told Lisa and Gayle about this before the show kicked off. We know the value of Inoue in the smaller weight divisions. We know the power and the pull that he has, right? He's going to make wait for it, $1 million for this fight against Maloney. I've heard the word about this. His team is even surprised that he's getting this month more than what they asked for. They thought they were going to take a reduction in pay, but kudos to Aram and Top Ranking ESPN. 7-figure payday for one Inoue. You don't hear that much in terms of the smaller weight fighters. Carvajal made it back in '93. In a bit of a correction, Gayle, Muthalane, when he fought Akira Yagashi,
over Japan last year. He pulled in over $1 million for that fight.
Nice.
People don't know about that, but he pulled in over $1 million for that fight. Right?
$1.2 million exact.
Right. Um, Thoughts on the fact that what does this say about Naoya Inoue, not just from the smaller weight perspective, but in terms of the overall landscape of the sport? That he is. This says to me he is that dude. That says to me that Top Rank and others around him or envision him is not just a star but a superstar. I'll start the conversation with you first, Lisa. Quickly, your reaction to the purse that Inoue is going to get for fighting Maloney October 31.
Kudos to him. And I've I've been seeing in Inoue since I saw the first time I saw Inoue was on HBO. I don't know if it was HBO or Top Rank was touting him, and
Nah, it was uh Superfly series they called it on a
Yep.
After Dark show on HBO.
That's back when he was still with Tyson out of
But
Japan.
yeah.
Mhm.
And
right.
now
And
he's
I remember he
co-promoted by
was in the
Tyson and
audience. He wasn't even fighting in the. He wasn't on the card, but he was in the audience. And I remember, so I knew that he was somebody big. I could tell. I could just tell that he was gonna be something. So he was already huge in his country already. So that's a good thing, and that's a good look for that division. And maybe he could be the catalyst to I mean the not the well, yeah, maybe hopefully those smaller divisions will start getting more money because they deserve it. They're fighters just like the other divisions. And also I'll just say this before I end. I think that WBSS World Boxing Super Series helped also. So his stock definitely grew from that as well.
I also must make note that not only did Carbajal make $1 million for fighting Chiquita Gonzalez, their second fight in February '94, when Carbajal and Chiquita fought the third time in December '94. Chiquita made $1 million, and also that same month, December '94, both Joshiro Tatsuyoshi, Yasuya Yakujishi made $1.5 million each when they fought each other that same month. So I just have to make note of that, just to give all the fighters in that lower weight division who's made those kind of purses. I'll go to you, Unrivaled, and then you can follow up, Gail. Your reaction to the kind of money that they're throwing Inoue's way.
It's amazing. It doesn't happen very often, and it shows where he's valued right now. For a lower weight fighter, it means that he can pull, especially being a foreign fighter coming into America. They know that people are intrigued in him because it's very rare you see a talent like that, and he possesses something that is very important in the little weight divisions, and that he is a serious knockout artist, a serious one, pound for pound, one of the biggest punchers in the sport. For my money, he's the biggest body puncher in boxing right now. That's just for my money. Take for it what you will. I'm happy he's making the money. He deserves it. It's a bit intriguing that he's getting it for a Maloney fight, but that'll just tell you where they value him. Because I don't think this fight's going past 4 rounds, personally. That's just more testament to how good Inoue is. Because if he wasn't around, Jason Maloney is capable of possibly winning a belt.
He would
Not
win a
from
world belt.
he could do. He's actually a talented guy. Like he would beat a Jamie McDonnell or any of those type of guys. Or you look at Charlie Edwards, who's somehow ranked in the top 3 with the WBC, which is baffling beyond compare.
Given Edwards' last fight, Edwards should stay away any top contender at 118 pounds.
No, Michael, no. Let him go in. I want to see him versus Ubaliard in there. Apparently, according to him, he's better than all of those guys. So let him get in there. Let him fight down there.
Maloney would outbox him. Ubali would outbox him. Casemiro would knock him out, and Inoue would knock him out.
What about Nonito? I think Nonito might kill him.
Co-sign with all of that.
So, but I'm very very pleased for Inoue, and honestly, I just want to see him back in the ring and see how he's dealing with the orbital bone fracture. That's really it for me, and hopefully he doesn't get frozen out, because it seems that's what the PBC are attempting to do with the whole Casemiro situation. So we'll wait and see.
Last word to you, Gayle.
You know, sometimes you think that they pay boxers by the pound if you look at their purses, which, you know, I mean, it does sometimes seem the case, literally. Bravo to Inoue. This speaks to his talent. It speaks to how intense he is as a personality. You know, he's interesting. It also speaks to the plus of streaming and technology making boxing more international and more accessible than ever before. I mean, look what we just watched over the weekend. I'm watching a Sunday bout, a Sunday card from Great Britain. It's easy for especially people on the west coast of the United States to watch most of the major cards in Mexico easily. Hell, one night, I think a week ago last Friday, a group of degenerate boxing writers who gets together on Zoom, we ended up watching a female Japanese atomweight fight, and it was outstanding. I mean, where could you have done that even just a few years ago? If you don't catch the fights live and you want to check something out, you heard about a great card in Russia, it's going to hit YouTube within hours of taking place. So this has given Inoue a platform that 10 years ago even would have been really tough for him to develop. And now we know about him. Now we get to see him and we get to enjoy fights from all over the world. And here we are talking tonight from a lot of different places on the planet.
Indeed, indeed. Inoue is a guy who has been the chatter of hardcore heads and serious followers of smaller weight guys like Unrivaled and myself and quite a few others, the Three Kings fam, who we've all talked about in a way since really uh, 2013, 2014. I have to say it again. Shout out to Gus, who's been on the show a whole bunch of times. Uh, talked about in a way even before he won a world title. Had him as his 2013 prospect of the year here on Pound for Pound Boxing Report, and he's moved on um, to become um, one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world. Um, on the serious verge of becoming. He's already a star when it comes to the lower weight division. He's a superstar in his home country in Japan and really throughout the continent of Asia. And he's on the verge of becoming a superstar throughout the sport and a real mainstream attraction. And shout out to Bob Arum and Top Ranking ESPN working behind the scenes, working with Taken to sign him to a co-promotional deal. And U.S. fans, if you've never seen him fight before, you in for a real treat. As Lisa mentioned, his final against Donaire last year, November, in the finals of the World Boxing Super Series tournament, arguably the fight of the year in 2019. Um, in a way, was tested in that fight, but just like we talked about how Buatsi needed that kind of test to show his toughness. In a way, needed that kind of test from a lower weight great like Donaire to show his worth as a fighter, and he showed through in flying colors indeed. And yeah, it's just going to be it's just super exciting that he hits our U.S. shores to fight in Vegas. He's fought in the U.S. before, but he's going to do so in a much larger capacity. And I think I can speak for everybody here and say we're really excited to see him against Maloney and hopefully see him on a regular basis stateside. And I think we're going to close the show down on that note. I usually start the show with ladies first. I'm going to end the show starting with ladies first. Um, let's go to Lisa here for those who want to talk boxing or anything else, or let the folks know where they can find you.
I don't um I'm not an uploader. I don't do content, so I mean, if you want to sub to my channel, that's fine, but I don't really do content like that, and
Well,
I don't have
okay.
Twitter.
For
Oh,
those who want to sub to your channel to maybe possibly talk boxing, and maybe you and I'm just saying, wink, wink, nod, nod. You should do a regular spot. I don't care if it's just for 5 minutes to mention something about the sport, since you are an avid follower of the sport. You should do that on kind of semi-regular basis, maybe every once a week or every couple of weeks, just to get your name out there. Let the folks know about your channel.
my channel? There's
Hmm.
nothing on it.
You should put something on it.
Nah, I don't want to. I don't really want to do a channel, Michael. I don't want to be bothered. I really don't. Really, I just don't have the temperament for it. I don't know. Maybe I'll change my mind one day, but I just,
It's going to happen
I,
by popular demand.
I just don't want to be bothered with all these people. I really don't. I really don't. I really don't. You don't understand. I just don't want to be bothered.
I think this woman watched the Social Dilemma, the documentary everybody's talking about the toxicity of social media. Uh, so you're smarter than all three of the rest of us put together, then.
Well, as long as
I
I can
come
have
from
you.
another era. I don't know. I'm still trying to adapt.
But we're glad to
As
have
long
you
as
here. Think about what an honor that is, all of you listening, to have Lisa here with that attitude.
Oh, please, Gail. I'm just Lisa.
We're sucking her in. We're sucking her in.
And again, I want to say again to you, thank you dearly for the contribution that you gave. You donated a little bit of
Oh,
coins
you're
to kind
welcome.
Yeah.
of support it.
Anytime.
Long as I can have you on here, and the door is open for you to be on the show anytime, anytime you want. Just let me know, and I'll invite you on. I'll have you on
Thank
ASAP.
you. Thank you so
Uh,
much.
I'll go to you, Gail. For those who want to talk boxing, for those who you want to talk media, because on the side you do teach media um, and media training. Or for those who want to talk dancing with the stars, let the folks know where they can find you.
Hey, I'm giving up my Dancing with the Stars time for the pound for pound report. That shows my dedication.
Well, that's why man made DVRs, Gail.
That's absolutely right, and damn straight, and streaming as well. Unlike Lisa, I have no such discipline. I am sucked into the machine, and you can find my regular written column. Yep, old school writing on boxing at Communities Digital News, which is COMM, Digi, DIGI, News, comdiginews.com. And I think you might catch me again on TMZ Live this Wednesday.
Indeed, indeed. I go to you and rival. You heavy into the boxing scene over in the UK. For those who want to talk to Sweet Science or anything else, let the folks know where they can find you, where they can follow you.
Yeah, you can find me on my own personal channel, Unrivaled Boxing Talk and News. You can also find me on Twitter, where I give all of my different thoughts at MC Boxing Stars. And every once in a while, I post articles to a few different websites, freelancing at the moment. So you'll be able to catch the articles when I post them up on Twitter for you to go and have a look at.
Indeed, indeed. I want to thank Red Glove Militant for his comments and his questions, and I agree with you. I'll show a final comment from him in our discussion about in a way. He says he hopes that hopefully the Casemiro fight can be made. So do I. They two don't like each other. The two that been talking back and forth about each other on Twitter. Anytime in a way speaks about any other fighter on Twitter or on social media, they've gotten under his skin. So hopefully that fight can be made at some point in 2021. For those who are watching us on YouTube, if you like what you heard, please hit that like button. Please to make sure to subscribe. it really helps with the algorithms in terms of the promotions of the show. Also, check us out on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts. If you check us out on iTunes and Spotify specifically, please make sure to leave a comment and leave a review. 5-star review will get read on the show. And as Glove Militant said, ask, yes, I am a writer for 3kingsboxing.com, as well as do my regular gig here on Pound for Pound Box Report. On the next episode, um, we will do a recap of Navarrete and Villa. Um, and also, we will go heavy, heavy into previewing the October 17th showdown, highly anticipated showdown unification fight between WBO, WBA World Lightweight Champion Vasily Lomachenko and IBF belt holder Teofimo Stevenson. Teofimo Lopez, what I'm thinking, my apologies. We'll do a heavy preview of that fight. That will probably take up most of the show. So, again, I want to thank Lisa, thank Gayle, thank Unrivaled, thank Red Glove Militant in the chat. This has been episode 301 of the Pound for Pound Box Report. We will see you guys next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.
Good night, everyone.